I'm Anthony Fio, and you're listening to the Talk Carby to Me podcast. I did get some questions though from the audience about things that we were doing.
I got
Um,
questions too.
so I think one of the first questions I got was, how do you balance your life and your diet slash nutrition, exercise, like that? And it kind of got me thinking, right? And you kind of, without knowing, just kind of stumbled right into that. You provided like a pretty deep why as to why you find nutrition interesting now and stuff like that. And I think it's something that a lot of people, when they set a goal and things like that, they don't really take time to really look at what the why is behind anything that you do,
Mm.
uh, or why your goal is the goal. So a lot of times clients come to us and it's like, hey, I would like to lose weight. I want to tone up. I want to grow a bigger butt. I want to I want to be jacked. Right. I want to go to the beach in a tank top, total gun show. Right. Everyone has something like that. But oftentimes, like that reason enough is not why. Right. So it's like, if I want to get jacked, I want to be shirtless, I want to just be a walking gun show. When things get harder, I'm presented with challenges. That's not really a big enough reason, because the only reason that I have for that is like, hey, I just want big arms. Like, but why do you want big arms? Like, what do you think that'll get you? It's like, oh, I'll be more confident or I'll look better in a t-shirt. And it's like, awesome. So take it deeper. Why do you want big arms, or why do you want to look good in a t-shirt or a tank top or shirtless? And a lot of times, like as you dive deeper into those whys, and usually it'll take about, you could probably ask yourself about 5 to 7 times why. Eventually, you're going to get to, maybe it might be a deep rooted insecurity, or it might be that you're very, very, very not confident in yourself, and you feel that gaining that confidence is going to improve your quality of life. You might find yourself, more attractive to someone. Um, you're going to be more confident in, what you wear, in your appearance. It might change your job performance and things of that nature. So it's very, very important, right? When you're looking at the balance of everything, is first to find out, like, why is this your goal? Right? Because a lot of times,
Totally.
like, I want to lose weight. I want to lose 10 pounds. Why do you want to lose 10 pounds? Right now, that's a little different if it's like, I want to lose 100 pounds. Okay. Why do you want to lose 100 pounds? Because my doctor told me that I'm going to die. Right. So if you've gotten to that point, it's like, okay, things, alarms are going off. Things need to happen where we can kind of reel that in. So once you have your why, and you really, and like, get very vulnerable with it, as far as like your why. And then the next step, right? Look at your environment. Right. So the environment that you, current state, wants to lose weight, wants to get in shape, wants to have a healthy lifestyle. Like, what does that look like for you? Are you in an environment that's supportive of what you want to do? Example, if I want to plant an apple tree, I can't plant an apple tree in a volcano. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't matter if I have the best ingredients, I have the best seeds for the apple tree, I water it every day, I love the tree, I whisper sweet nothings into its ear, which apparently science has proven, if you give positive affirmations to plants, they'll grow better, right?
Plants
So
have feelings too.
exactly, right? So, which is kind of horrifying if you look at the vegan culture. It's like, oh, like they have feelings. Like, what are you doing? At least when I had a,
You just had to throw the vegans into it.
it's true. Well, think about it like that. Like,
Oh, totally.
if you really sit there and marinate on that thought, like that's true. It's not like I'm eating the cow while it's alive. Um, my cow like lived a good life. It did the thing. It ate some grass. It had some friends. It had a good time, and it was just time to put the work in. Um,
I don't want to distract you too much from our question here because you are in a good tangent. But do you know how many bunnies die on these crop fields from like the people like plow or the farmers plowing for their vegetables? I'm not using correct agricultural terminology. I know that. I don't know anything about farming.
how dare you?
But bunnies and squirrels do die for vegetables that our friendly vegans consume. We love you, but
I never thought about that. Those poor guys.
no, it's actually quite a lot. But please continue on with your apple strategy.
Right, R.I.P. all the dead bunnies. I'm gonna pour some pre-workout out for my dead homies. So where I was going with that, right? So look at your environment, right? So and we talked about this in earlier episodes, right? If something is in your house, you or someone that you love is going to eat it. So if you got a lot of chips, a lot of snacks and stuff like that, someone in the house is eating that.
Totally.
Right. So then take a look at your lifestyle. Right. So take a week and just write down everything that you do in a day. Like a lot of people, and one of the things that you'll see when it comes to I'm trying to build a diet, I'm trying to build a nutrition plan to feel a little better, get a little healthier and stuff like that. It's like, okay, so what does it currently look like your life? Do you like how long do you sleep? How long are you working for? What do you do from the time that you wake up to the time that you start working? What does lunch look like? Okay, what about after that? And take a look at that and don't even try to assess it. Just literally write down what it is. And then take it a step further. Like one of the biggest things is people don't have enough time to kind of plan effectively and things like that. And a lot of times, what I'll ask those folks is, you tell me that you don't have enough time to put together, some simple diet strategies to kind of help you. And we're not talking about you need to have the whole shebang ready to go. You got a meal plan, everything is planned out, stuff like that. We're talking about like how much, how much how much time do you really have, or how much time do you really are you really wasting? And a lot of times I'm like, oh, what's your favorite Netflix show? And they're like, oh, they can tell me exactly in Bridgerton when Anthony gets thrown into the lake, right? For those wondering, it's season 2 episode 5. um, and it's
Spoiler
like,
alert.
spoiler alert. um, yes, I've binged Bridgerton. And
We
it's
don't
like,
talk
what
about it.
it's it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so now take a look at those hobbies, right? And part of it comes to sacrifice. And this is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. You want to become someone who is fit, healthy, has a good plan, is in shape, is more confident. Take a look at that person and then go backwards, right? That version of you can't have the same habits that you currently have. You have to change. Like you have to sacrifice things. So it might be spend less time Netflix, or spend less time, if you've got another hobby that's really, really time consuming or things like that. And a little bit of that sacrifice, right? You can't be who you are now in a fit body. It's just not going to work, right? If that was possible, you would be already fit and you would have that lifestyle, right? So certain things need to change. Now that's not for me to say that to get in shape and make healthier changes, you have to forego everything that you enjoy, right? There's a place for it. But if you really take a look and deep dive in, right, take a look at your screen time, how much time you're spending on social media, how much time you're spending, streaming services, watching TV, watching a game. Like, are you keeping up with the Kardashians? If you are, I'm sorry. But things like that, and you'll find small victories. Like maybe you can free up 30 minutes a day. Can you, if you're someone who sleeps 10 hours a night and you feel you need to sleep 10 hours a night, right? Can you sleep 8 hours? Right. And those little changes over time are going to add up to huge increments. But, and that's a big thing, right? A lot of it is you have to sacrifice something. And the unfortunate reality is, to this point, you've been someone who sacrifices you for the easy parts, or the comfort per se. So there needs to be a little bit of a better balance there, and a lot of times that's where it needs to be.
Yeah. No, 100% agree with Anthony on all the points. I think also too, like if you're doing especially these goals, or you're trying to change yourself or your body for weight loss, I mean for confidence purposes, sometimes achieving that goal or that physique goal will give you that confidence, and sometimes it won't. So sometimes we're like, oh, I'll feel better when, or I'll feel better if, right? And then you reach that goal and then you realize, oh crap, like I actually don't feel better at all. I feel exactly the same. I just happen to look better now. And then that's why it's sometimes important to work with a therapist, or kind of do some deeping, no, deeper digging.
Ooh,
Wow, my
dig,
brain is
digger deeping.
I'm on full pregnancy brain mode. But yeah, got to look a little deeper then into, what's going on below all of that, to see, why is it that you still having those same issues, even though you made all the changes that you thought were going to help you. Um,
The other thing too is like, look at your routine. Like, what does your routine look like? Right. So that's why you write it all out and see what your routine is. Okay. Every night, before I go to bed, I watch Netflix for an hour. Okay. Right. There's probably some wiggle room there where you can make a sacrifice and stuff like that. When you look at routine, it's super important. So if you're having trouble balancing the things that are happening in your life, as you add in diet stuff specifically. So obviously I'm not talking about like, oh, like this is happening, that's happening, XYZ. I'm talking about like you've got your current life and you're adding in healthy lifestyle habits, right? You want to try to build a new routine, right? So what it looks like when you have a routine versus when you don't have a routine. Having a routine, imagine if you were building a house, or you built a fence, right? We'll use a fence because it'll make sense. You take your fence, right? You need pieces of wood. You take a piece of wood. I'm going to hammer a nail here where it intersects with the support beams, and then I'm going to hammer another nail in. Boom. I'm going to hammer another nail in. Boom. If you build enough fences, that's going to be ingrained. It's going to be muscle memory. You're just going to know that, right? So well, I hammer here, I hammer here, I hammer here. After a while, you could probably do it blindfolded. Now imagine trying to add everything in and just not having a plan or routine. It's going to be like you're playing whack-a-mole, right? So sometimes you're smacking to the left, sometimes you're hammering to the right, you're hammering down low, and you're just surprised by everything. And then suddenly two moles come up, and like you're hammering all over the place. When you look at your brain and things like that, you only have so much energy and capacity to be able to make decisions and make choices and stuff like that. If you have to constantly make all those choices, by the end of the day, you're going to be fried, right? And that's where it's going to come in. We're like, I'm stressed out. I had a crazy day at work. I had a crazy day getting to and from work. The kids had to go to school. The kids had to go there and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, like you're shot. Of course you're not gonna. Of course that time at the end of the day is just to be like, we need to sit down. I need everything to slow down. I need to watch, this episode of The Office and episode of whatever, and just chill out because I cannot take any more decision making or stimulus in my brain and things like that. And a lot of times, like looking at it in that perspective, you need to have some in place.
Okay, so yeah, one other thing I wanna add too is, like, your environment which was, like, a big thing that Anthony now just touched on, and I think, like, a lot of us underestimate how important and how crucial our environment and our support is. So, if you are within your environment the only person pursuing, like, eating better, exercising more, and all of that, it's gonna be really, really hard for you to follow through because changing habits are hard and changing a lifestyle is hard and doing things without people that you love is even harder. So either you have to look into building up a new community that you can join, which doesn't mean like it's a rivalry to people you're currently hanging out with, but just you have another support system in place that supports your health journey. If it's through a coach, a trainer, joining like I don't know, classes, stuff like that. But that can be really helpful too. But yeah, your community is just super, super important to helping you carry you through and seeing through your goals because they're the ones that are going to be like, hey, why didn't you come to the workout on Saturday like you usually do? They're going to be the ones that are going to want to do healthy activities with you and stuff. I definitely like for me, my own health journey has shifted a lot, especially with the people I hang out with the most. So as I became a trainer, became friends with other trainers, like that just became more and more my life, which was being in a gym, working out, getting more and more comfortable in a gym too. So even up to this day, most of my close friends are either dietitians or trainers. And we kind of hold each other accountable, just like even through conversation that we hold each other accountable. Where it's like, oh, I couldn't get my workouts in this week because of X, Y, and Z. And it's like, oh man, yeah, I gotta like make sure I say my workouts too, or else I'm gonna be surpassed by my friends and family. So your community is honestly like a huge, huge support part of it. And finding the right fit for you is really important.
For sure, community, and even if you don't have community is a thing, but if you look at society and humans and stuff like that, a lot of human nature is in this tribe mentality, right?
Totally.
So think of it like your tribe. Like your tribe might be just your partner, your friend, your parents, stuff like that. When you've got a goal, when you've got something that's important to you, tell someone that you care about and that cares about you. So if it's a super private goal, right, tell them about it. The beauty of that is they care about you. So when they see you slipping or they see you questioning yourself or maybe a little doubt creeps in, they're going to remind you. And if you pair that with, you've got your why, it's like, okay, right. You wanted to do this because XYZ, it's important. And it's like, you're right. And sometimes you need that little reminder. Plus, personally, if I'm like, I want to be a world class sweater knitter or crocheter or whatever that's called. If I don't tell anyone, it's very easy to let myself down because I don't have the shame of someone else being like, "Wow, Anthony doesn't knit sweaters now. He couldn't cut it." However, if I tell someone like Sandra, I'm going to start knitting sweaters and they're going to be some bomb sweaters and they're not going to have bondage on them. Um,
Good.
and right, and you'll go through and it's like, okay, she knows that I'm trying to do this. Like she's gonna know if I fail. Like I can't let that happen. Um, and it can add a tremendous kick, and have a great impact on on your journey. Because you're gonna have pitfalls. And look at anything you've ever tried to do in your life, you probably failed at some point. It's probably a good thing that you did. If everyone was good at everything every single time that we tried, we'd probably have the most boring existence of all time. Things fail, things die, so new things can grow, replace some skills, and some of that stuff is incredibly painful, and that's part of the process.
Yeah. And also too, kind of take inventory of what people say in response to your goals. So, like, if you feel really passionate about, you want to get healthier, right? And then your response from your spouse is something negative about it, like, "Oh, here you go again. Like, you always fail at this," right? Like, kind of take inventory of that too. That definitely is a sucky situation if your spouse is the one to tell you that, but like a friend says that or something like that to you, you definitely want to just take a mental note of that, and then maybe that factor of finding that community is even more important for you because your current community is working against you.
Exactly. So let's take a look at this next question here, right? I'll let you field this one. Are there workouts for fat loss? And I love this question. So let's hear your take on that. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I mean, fat loss in particular really comes from a caloric deficit, right? So actual fat loss, like you can't like just start working out and then not focus on your diet at all and expect to lose weight, right? So you have to be in some caloric deficit. Now, if your diet was to stay the same, and let's say you literally do nothing different to your diet, like absolutely nothing, and then you add exercise, you'll likely enter caloric deficit for fat loss. Now, is there a workout in particular that's going to help you more or less in
So
the short term? Go ahead.
and so like just to get super specific on this too, because this was part of the question as well. Like, so if I carry a lot of fat in my butt, is there a workout that I can do to get rid of butt fat? And the
So, no, like fat loss and fat gain happens, it's very like genetically based, right? So, where you gain and lose fat from, there's so many factors that go into it, and like targeted exercise aren't going to help. So, like if you're trying to like cut down on your gut, for instance, you doing a bunch of crunches is not going to help you like lose fat around your stomach. Um, can things help? Can like building muscle help you with that? Definitely, right? Building muscle will help you burn more calories in a day, so that will help you with that. Cardio, especially when you're new to cardio, you burn the most amount of calories in the beginning when you first start cardio, so that can help you give you a little advantage on that part as well. But again, that's just movement in general. You could just start doing yoga if you've never worked out before, and depending on your intensity of yoga, right? Like not just like yin yoga, which is like your stretchy yoga, but like yoga originally was invented for well, I guess the word invented is hard to say, but Buddhist warriors used to do yoga to get ready for battle and stuff. So, like the real yoga, it can also help you with burning calories, right? So in the end, exercise is just key, but building muscle will help you keep the fat loss off long term.
awesome, I agree. So that's a great take on yoga. I didn't know that's why yoga was made. So the next time I'm dying as I do yoga, because apparently for me it's the hardest thing of all time, I'm gonna be like, haha, I'm preparing for battle. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's different formats, right? There's like the Ashtanga Vinyasa, I think. Oh my God, yogis, don't come after me. But I think it's the Ashtanga Vinyasa. Just someone just Google it, and that's like the format. And it's if you do it actually the way you're supposed to do it, it's really hard.
Hopefully we triggered a yogi.
Yeah.
Uh, come for Sandra. We got this.
We're just looking for engagement. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. So, realistically, like Sandra hit it right on the head. You got to be in a caloric deficit, right? If you want to lose weight and you don't know what your starting weight is, right? Get on a scale, weigh yourself, go do some stuff. And if in 1 week after you doing stuff, your weight is less than the first number, you're in a caloric deficit. Congratulations. Now, the food composition goes into that a little bit too, right? So you want to make sure that way you're not losing muscle because you want it to come from your fat, right? So you need your protein intake to be about 1 gram per pound of body weight. All right. You can even, some people even creep up a little bit more, but it's a good starting point. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight that you have. And then if you see your scale going down, you are losing weight. And if your protein intake is good, you should be losing fat. If it doesn't and it stays the same, you're not in a caloric deficit, right? Um, a lot of times, most people underestimate the fact that they think they're in a caloric deficit when they're really not, right? So it's just like that episode of The Office when Michael declares the bankruptcy and he's like, I declare bankruptcy. And I was like, well, that's not how it works, right? It's like, I declare a calorie deficit. And it's like, are you though? Like, show me, right? So you should see your weight going down if you're in a calorie deficit. Even if you're like, your calorie deficit is 10 calories, over time, you will still lose weight, right?
Yeah.
So you can't target it specifically, unfortunately, regardless of what the internet tells you. And yeah, so caloric deficit, like that's the main key.
Yeah. And if you're tracking everything and like you swear you're in a caloric deficit and you did not see that scale change, then maybe you're one of those people you need to wait just a touch longer and that scale will eventually move. But like I would not wait longer than a month. Like if within a month you didn't lose anything, then you definitely need to need to figure something out there. But yeah, you should already see something in your first week. But again, you might be one of those people that doesn't. Those people do exist. It takes them 2 or 3 weeks. Anyway, that's it.
And here's a great example, right? Salads at lunch. You can have a super healthy salad. Now, if I tell you I had a salad and I put ranch on my salad because I love ranch. Me and ranch, we got a special thing going on. You're like, oh man, you probably added a ton of calories. But then I'm like, wait. I fixed it. I made a salad and I put olive oil in my salad. Right? It's like, well, how much olive oil did you put on your salad? And
Bingo.
the first thought is, hey, olive oil is healthier than ranch. However, certain amounts of, after a while, if you have too much oil, it's going to be a ton of calories. Like there's still calories to it, right? So while the perception of it is, wow, it's healthy, it's green, there's no ranch, I can see everything, but it's soaked in oil. You might be doing worse than the person that's having ranch on their salad. So that is a huge thing too, right? When you look at what you're eating and why it's so important that you track in some capacity so you have an idea of what these measurements look like.
I totally have to say this now. If you go to Jason's Deli and you get their salads and you're thinking you're making better choices than the person you're going with because he's eating a sandwich, you're likely wrong. I recently learned this. Jason's Deli salads, they are like so high in calories. I forget the number, but it's way higher than their sandwiches. So it is not all salads are equal. Just because you're eating a salad, unfortunately, doesn't mean you are necessarily doing the best thing for you and your weight loss goals. So research is absolutely essential. That was my
Huge.
vent.
Go for it.
No, it was just so irritating because that's like, as a dietitian too, right? You like default to say, "Oh no, order a salad," right? And then, you start looking at these nutrition menus and you're like, "Oh my God, these salads are awful. They're 1,000 calories." And half the calories is salad dressing.
Yep. Fun fact, when you go out to eat, if you'd like to have a meal that is comparable to kind of what you want in your diet plan or your nutrition plan with your to line up with your priorities, every single restaurant has this meal: steak, a veggie, and like a sweet potato, right? Or they'll have it chicken with some rice and a veggie. Every restaurant has that one. If you're at a restaurant that doesn't have one of those, get the burger and only eat one of the buns or eat the whole bun. But the burger is usually the most healthy thing on most restaurant menus. The thing you have to think about, if you came over to my house for dinner and I was making you dinner, I'm going to I'm going to make sure that you like the way that I cook dinner. So I'm going to make it taste delicious. It's the same thing when you look at a restaurant, right? It's a business, right? They want you to come back. They're going to make it taste as good as possible. They might use more butter than usual. They might use more sauces than usual, more oils than usual. And certainly that stuff tastes good, but they want you to come back. And if things taste good, you're going to come back. You're going to tell your friends. So when you look at those menus, right, pay attention to that stuff like that. A lot of times, the typical American cheeseburger on a restaurant menu is your best bet when you got to eat. But if you're at a steakhouse, obviously steak, veggie, sweet potato, something like that, can't go wrong there. There's also a chicken option as usually as well.
Yeah, I like that you clarified the standard American burger because some of these
Y-
burgers too, they also like go way off the rails.
ugh, I'm all for a burger that goes way off the rails. Like dislocate my jaw. Like let's go.
We're gonna have that one viewer that's like, "But Anthony said the burger was the healthiest," and it's like a tower.
You're at Bad Daddy's and you've got
Yeah,
deep fried bacon on your burger, and there's 4 patties and like, oh,
but Anthony said the burger. Oh my god, that's really funny. But no,
yeah.
you Anthony is right. It's just I don't know why I'm having the giggles.
Subconsciously, every time someone says burger now for the rest of the week, you're gonna laugh.
Oh my god, okay. Alright, should I have one of my questions,
Yeah, go for it. Let's
mentioned?
hear it.
Okay, so one of the questions that came through on my end was, "How do we measure food accurately?" And I feel like this lines up perfectly with our previous question right now. So there are different ways that we can measure our food, right? You can eyeball it, you can use the good old cup system, or you can actually weigh it. In the end, you weighing your food is by far the most accurate thing. So when I was bodybuilding, in that small little phase that I was a bodybuilder, I carried my scale around with me everywhere. As a matter of fact, I had Thanksgiving dinner. So this time 2 years ago, I was in prep and I brought my scale to my in laws and I weighed everything. Okay. It is by far the most accurate form of measurement using the good old cup system like the Americans like to use, like a cup of rice. I mean, how are you flattening out the surface on top of the rice? Is there like a little hill, right? So a cup can be really kind of relative. Eyeballing is the worst thing you can do. If you eyeball something, I mean, it's still better than not measuring, okay? I should say that. But if you're eyeballing something, you're likely off by like a good 30% and usually in the wrong direction. Where you
I
say like yeah, go ahead.
as an American, I feel doubly attacked, as the Americans like to do, like
Well, no, because it's true. Okay, so for instance, if you are baking something and it's an American recipe, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to have so much American hate right now with recipes and how we measure things here. But they'll say like a cup of flour or a cup of sugar, right? And I obviously can only compare really to German recipes, but within German recipes, they tell you the exact grams that you have to put in there.
it is actually pretty convenient. That's solid.
Yeah. So you're not like, overshooting the mark or anything like that. And you can't really cheat the system. So if you weigh your food, that by far is the most accurate thing. Get yourself a food scale. Those things are super clutch. I used to have one in my office, used to have one in my kitchen. They both ironically broke just recently, so I have to buy new ones. But they're very, very convenient to have. And they actually like you really learn what a portion size is, and you actually learn how much extra calories you were consuming than more than you thought. So I recommend weighing your food every so often just so you get an idea. Because if you're fascinated by food measurements like me, it's very eye opening.
For sure. You should look at your plate and you should have a good understanding of what 30 to 50 grams of protein looks like. If you do it enough times, you're kind of gonna have that there. So I agree with Sandra. Now I'm someone who eyeballs my food. The reason I eyeball my food is because I eat the same thing all the time, and I've weighed it so many times. We're talking over probably 400 times. Probably more than that, probably closer to 800 actually, if you really think about it. Let's call it 8. Let's put it at 1,000. In the last 7 years, I've probably weighed my food 7,000 times, and my diet doesn't deviate much from it. I have a pretty good idea of what it looks like, right? As a nutrition coach, when clients send me pictures of their food and stuff like that, I have a pretty good idea of what's on their plate. Sometimes you need some scaling stuff and things of that nature, but for the most part, you'll have a pretty decent understanding. Now, I would say that's why you want to track, especially when you look at fats, when you're looking at recipes and stuff like that. Like it's very easy to use an entire stick of butter. Like I'm not going to be shy here.
Oh, easy.
I fly through butter. Um, but it gives you a pretty good idea, right? So you're obviously not going to go to a restaurant and weigh your food. And if Sandra ever came to my Thanksgiving and was like weighing stuff, I'd probably throw her scale in the dishwasher. But
I
um,
was a week out from a show, I should add. That was not the time to mess around.
let me weigh this. But you'll have that idea. You'll be able to understand a little bit as everything comes together, and when you're on the go and stuff like that, which a lot of times we are, and you want to make the right choice, or maybe you have a less. a less often kind of choice in your diet, right? Because it's a celebration, you'll have an idea of kind of like what's going on your plate, stuff like that.
Yeah, like for instance, I'll give you a little example, then we can move on. So recently, someone that I am close to, I won't say who it was like, "Oh, I only put certain amount of oil in there," right? And they kind of like showed me like with their fingers, like how much oil they put in there. They're like, "That's half a cup." And I'm like, "No, that's a cup." They're like, "No, no, it's just half a cup." I'm like, "All right, you should measure it out next time because I'm telling you right now, that's definitely a cup." So sometimes like what we think cup is really not a cup, or what half a cup is really not half a cup. So it's a sad reality.
Yeah.
But
Well, welcome to my life. Like, my mom loves feeding me. Everyone's mom loves feeding them. They're like, "Is this good?" And I look at it, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's about a cupped hand full of rice." And she's like, "Oh, you need a little bit more. You're getting skinny and stuff like that." I'm like, one, shot to my pride, my ego, and my insecurities. Two, you just doubled my carb serving, and
yeah,
like, but yeah, that's one of those things, right? Just weigh it so you know. Like, don't lie to yourself. Peanut
yeah,
butter's another one of those things that catches up with you.
yeah. Really, your fats are the hardest, are like the ones that you need to really weigh out the most.
Yeah. So really quick, I guess we can touch on this now. A very good example, if you're like, I'm never weighing my food or anything like that, but you still want some kind of method of tracking it. If your carb portion on your plate looks like it can fit in your hand as if your hand was the ladle, that's a decent serving. If your protein portion is about the size of your hand, that's a decent serving. If your veggies are about the size of your fist, that's a decent serving. And for fats, usually it's about the size of your thumb. That's a weird measurement, but get in the habit of measuring so you have an understanding of what that looks like.
Yeah, I really hate the reference of the size of your thumb. I find that such a stupid way of measuring things. So I have a
So,
really short thumb.
so for those of you that so for those of you that don't know, that's the precision nutrition lean eating method, right? That's kind of where you want to where they like to start and ballpark it. So that's where a lot of that comes from. I never understand the thumb one.
Yeah. Or like the size of like your fingernail or something like that. Those are just such weird measurements. But yeah, if
What
you
if
don't want to measure anything, like Anthony said, just weigh out your fats.
yeah,
Start there.
and what if you don't have a thumb? Like now I'm thinking about that. Like what do these guys do that don't have thumbs? You got to measure,
What if you don't have a hand?
right?
Now portion size are all out the window.
I know.
People are gonna think we're crazy. Anyway, do you have any other questions?
One I did want to touch on because this one's an interesting one. It plays well with this time of year. So we talked about this last episode: holiday eating strategies, tips, and stuff like that. For the most part, keep the method, right? 70% of a well laid out plan is better than 0% execution of any plan, right? So um, one thing that came up, right, this time of year we have a lot of holiday parties and things like that are going to be popping up. And some people also are just social drinkers, or they might do something. So the question that came in, so how does alcohol play a role in your diet, and how do you manage that? So it's one of those things where it's like a lot of people get in the habit of, oh my god, I had a glass of wine, my diet is ruined, or I have a glass of wine every night before bed, and that's the thing that's keeping me from weight loss. That's why I can't have my nutrition, and it becomes like this thing to blame. So how do you approach that, and like what are your thoughts on something like that?
Well, I think what's really important is to be like honest with how much are we actually talking about? Because if it is just like a glass of wine, like we can work with a glass of wine. And if you say like that's absolutely non-negotiable for us to cut out, then yeah, like we can leave that in and we'll work on other aspects of it. The quantity for sure will matter. And if you're eating it, if you're having that beverage with food, that will also have a huge impact too on your blood sugar regulation and all of that. Um, so basically, it really depends on your goals as well as you enter this season. If you're saying, hey, like this holiday season, I'm just looking to maintain, or basically maintain, and then I'll worry on leading back out again after the holidays are over, then I say, you know what, just make sure you're not overdoing it. Make sure you're not overdoing it a bunch of times, right? Meaning like, don't go and have like 5, 6, 7 days in a row, like, 5, 6 like alcoholic beverages, right? And not expect to see a shift in your weight and anything like that. But if you're only doing it, for the specific holidays, I just say like don't worry about it. And then just, go back to your normal routine. Um, I'm answering your question. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm going on a tangent. Okay.
But like,
Um,
but also like, is it possible to have a healthy diet while while maintaining a social drinking habit?
Yeah, I think so. Again, it comes down back down to how much are you drinking, right? So for women, a good serving size is 1 glass. For men, they can go up to two. And as long as like you stick within those parameters, I think you are in a really, really great spot. Now, if every so often you have more than that, that's not the end of the world. But I would, if you're doing it every single night, I would stick to your serving sizes.
Yeah, and I have a similar approach to that too. A lot of times when you meet a client, you're looking at their diet and their lifestyle and stuff like that. That's probably one of the last things I'm going to try to fix. The reason that's the last thing that I'm going to try to fix is because there's probably a reason that you drink.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not so much the wine that's the problem there, or the drink that's the problem there. That's the behavior, and there's something that is causing you to execute that behavior, which will go into maybe like I said, if it's a social thing and that's how your friends interact socially, like that stuff is important. Like imagine if you went out to a bar with your buddies and you didn't drink, and you were the only one that's like, "Hey, I'm not drinking." Like, and it's only because I'm trying to cut the pounds off. They're gonna look at you. They're like, "What? Like the World Cup is on. Like, what are you doing? Like, come on." Now, so like for me, that's something that I'm going to focus on last because there's lower hanging fruit than that. Unless the person is like, it's 7 drinks every night or 4 out of the 5 nights, like, you're hammered and stuff like that, then
Yeah.
okay, that's gonna throw us off a little bit, and one of the things that's gonna happen is, what do we know about being very intoxicated? Not even from a nutritional perspective. Your decision making is gonna be altered. You are gonna be more apt to take risks. Here's another fun fact: Taco Bell tastes way better when you're hammered. Even if you're not hungry and someone's like, "Dude, I could totally go for a cheesy gordita crunch right now," and you're like, "Absolutely. Sign me up. I'm not even hungry. I had my full day of eating. Now I want the gordita," and the gordita is the thing that catches up to you. Um, so I'll usually focus on what does the rest of the day look like, right? So, example, I don't drink much anymore. Should I be going out? And I was going to a Thanksgiving party or a holiday party and things like that. I'm going to have my normal breakfast, my normal lunch. The meal in between lunch and usually dinner, I might change my carbohydrate portion a little bit. I might make it a little smaller. That doesn't mean I'm going to completely eliminate it. I just might change it a little bit. Right. And then I'll have my normal dinner, or I might just have protein and a veggie because I know there's going to be some drinking. And with some drinking, if I'm at a holiday party or something like that, I'm going to snack on something. And I'll know that's coming, but I'll make sure that I eat because also we know what happens when you don't eat. When you starve yourself all day in anticipation of going to a holiday party, and then you're hammered and you're like, oh, I'm that guy now. Um, so
Totally.
that's how I would kind of tackle it.
Yeah.
It gets
I
a,
would,
it,
sorry.
it gets a bad stigma because it's easy to demonize, but as long as it's not something that like is at the level of this being a problem, it is way less impactful than you might think. Especially when you look at something like, yeah, I don't eat enough in the day. I'm always starving. I skip meals and things like that. Those are the things that are have more importance and value as far as building, the whole shebang.
Yeah. Even though alcohol does behave a little bit differently, I still count it towards your starchy carbohydrate for that meal or for whatever not. So that's typically how I bundle it together. Um, oh crap, I lost what I wanted to say now. Mhm. Oh, yeah, I'm also too not a big drinker. So in general, I used to probably be a little bit more, and I really am not a big drinker nowadays, especially now that I'm pregnant. But even before then, I really wasn't a big drinker unless it was socially or anything like that. If you want to listen to some really great information about the effects of alcohol on your body, Dr. Andrew Huberman has a really, really great podcast all around that and how like it affects your sleep, your gut microbiome, and all those wonderful great things. It's super fascinating. And I highly encourage everyone to check it out.
So I've been watching, so in my daily scrolls through Instagram when I'm killing time, I've been seeing a lot of this motivational speakers and stuff like it talking about this concept, and you see it in a lot of videos and people are making reels and stuff like that. It's like, what would you do if you knew that you couldn't fail?
Mm,
Right. And if you obviously you look at that in life and it's like, you might have a dream, you might have a goal, you might have a mission, you might have a passion and stuff like that. And like, what would it look like if you knew that everything that you do was just going to win and it was just going to be an absolute banger. And there's no way that you can fail. All you have to do is show up, and you're basically going to achieve it. And thinking about, I had my client the other day, and we were bench pressing, and it's a female client, and we hit a PR of 135 for the first
Nice.
time. And I don't train. I'm usually not the kind of trainer that's like, hey, we're going to work so that way you have this crazy bench, unless your goal is to have a crazy bench press or a squat or any kind of movement and anything like that. And it got me thinking, and like I heard the quote and stuff like that, and then I'm working out with my client, and I'm like, we're doing 115, and she's kind of, it's kind of hard. It's definitely a working set. It's, a little higher up on the effort scale. And I'm like, okay, so let's create a situation where you can't fail. Perfect. I'm your spotter. Let's load up 135. You've never done it before in your life. Bang, just bangs it out for a couple of reps. I was like, that's awesome.
She did
If
it
we
for
take,
reps?
she did it more than once. And I was like, oh, I was like,
Like all the
let's
way down, like full range of motion?
full range of motion, minimal help from me. And I was like, holy smokes.
Damn, shout out to a random client.
Yeah, who will remain nameless. So it's one of those things where it's like, and if you think about all the changes that you're looking to make from a dietary perspective, from a fitness perspective, and things like that, and let's tie kind of everything in. Like, what if I told you that if I give you this guideline, or you have this rough draft of like how it's going to be, and there's no way that you're not going to lose weight, like what would that look like? Like, do you believe in yourself to that degree to still do it because you know that the system is going to work for you? And it's also like, if we're gonna lift heavy, we're gonna do exercise and stuff like that. Like, personally, I know that if I have a spotter, my bench is already up, my squat is already going to be up. Right, deadlift is probably the one exception to that because that's a really hard exercise to spot. But I know that if I have something like that safety net there, right, I can do that. And a lot of times we can build in that safety net to help us achieve our goals and things of that nature. So if I'm working out, right, and if I have a workout partner that day, I'm going to go a little heavier because I know that I won't fail. Right? I'm not.
Yeah. If I can quickly interject, I am 100% with you on that. Like, especially with squatting, like, I was so loyal to, like, if my coach was not there to spot me squatting, and like, I just physically couldn't squat as much. Well, mentally, I guess I should say. Maybe physically I could, but mentally I held myself back because I had so much faith and had so much confidence that if I failed, someone was there to catch me.
Yeah.
And that person was not there, like, it was just not going to happen.
Oh, for sure. And in that same vein, like, you have that coach, like the mentor type thing, but you also have the help, the assistance, the safety net. But like, look at cinematic movies and adventures or anything where it has like there's some sort of accomplishment to be gained that seems difficult or challenging. That person always looks into the crowd for a loved one.
Yeah,
Right. So we talked about this earlier. Let your loved ones know your goals, and that's one of the reasons why. To kind of loop back into that, right? That you're not going to fail in front of someone that you care about, and if you do fail, you're going to fail knowing that you put maximum effort into it, and
totally.
that's one of the hugest lessons to be learned, especially in a journey or anything that you're trying to accomplish, or anything like that.
Yeah. I think it's a really cool question to ask yourself. Like, if failure was not an option and success was guaranteed, what is it that you would do? That's already like a really cool question to ask. And
Yeah.
then the second question I'll probably ask myself is why, what are you doing, or why are you like, what's going on that is holding you back from feeling that way or from
Hmm.
being that way, right? So I can already say for me, like, I struggle a lot with like just showing up for myself, right? Where I am like, I will not cancel on anybody else, but I'm very quick to cancel on my own self, right? Because I'm a people pleaser
Yeah.
and I hate making other people upset, because that somehow means that like I receive less love. It's like actually like a recent thought that I've been like working with and stuff like that. Not that it actually happened, but that always has been like, I guess, something that I've been working with, right? So, what is your reason? Why do you quit on yourself? What is holding you back from showing up for yourself?
Yeah. And if we're gonna, let's just roll with this. We can take it
Yeah.
a little deeper, right? So if you look at one of the things, if you talk to any single person who's ever thought about getting in shape or fitness or doing anything in general, I like to find out what. So I hearing you talk to me about your reality where you're at, where you want to be, what it's like to be you, stuff like that. I can extract data and I can kind of have a pretty good idea of what's holding you back. But I never put that out there. It's very rare that I actually tell someone. Now, if we've been working together for a while, I will then tell you, obviously, because I have your trust and I can literally say, hey, you're fucking this up. But at the beginning and stuff like that, I like to ask the question, what do you think is holding you back? And a lot of times it's going to be daily stress, my job, my kids, my partner. I don't know what I'm doing and things like that. And it's like, no, those you are like you're not in tune with a why, right? A lot of times those are not the reasons. Yes, in certain people's instances, those can be the reasons, but a lot of times, if you're struggling with a question like that, if you go, especially in the health and fitness field, if you go and just look in the mirror for about 10 minutes and just really, really think about it, like what's holding me back? A lot of times you'll find that it is staring you right in the face.
Totally.
And until you accept that, things become a little tough. A lot of times, like accountability is not fun. And I think negative self-talk can really, really be a horrible thing for us. But a lot of times you'll just accidentally get feedback from the rest of the world, whether it be at work, whether it be a friend or anything like that. You might say something that you thought was funny that someone else found offensive, and like you'll get that initial feedback and then you learn from that process. And sometimes we want to like self-love is important, right? Everyone, and I mean literally everyone, has something of value to offer in any capacity, right? But a lot of times, like, look at the feedback that you get from the rest of the world and take a look at yourself and say, is this true? Is this something that I can fix? Is this something that I'm willing to fix? When you line that up with your why and you can take accountability for that, and it's like, okay, I know this one small thing is something that I can do to improve my life, and I'm the thing that's preventing it, right?
Yeah. I think also too it plays a big role into it sometimes is like the person that you strive to want to be doesn't like you don't as much as you want to be that person, you still always fall back to who do you identify as, right? So like if you identify as that person who doesn't go to the gym, you're that unfit person, you're the uncoordinated person, the unathletic person, right? Like you're going to continue to hold on to that. And you have to let go of that old person of who you thought that you were and start morphing into this new person of that person that does go to the gym, that person that does eat healthy, that person that does look at the nutrition labels and stuff like that. And sometimes you have to shift of who you think that you are, and even if you just have to start faking it, right? And believing that you're this new other version of yourself, right? And then eventually sometimes the other habits will follow too. So sometimes like even like self-identity will hold you back from achieving what you want to achieve.
Absolutely. Self identity is so, so important.
Yeah.
A lot of times, um, a lot of times, it's like, yeah, that could never be me. I could never do that in the gym. The only reason that you can't do it in the gym and you see someone else like doing these crazy exercises, these big lifts, they've just been at it longer.
Yeah.
But there was a point where they themselves had that thought and they were like, okay, I can't do that right now. But if I do XYZ in a year, that could be me. And that's what you start working towards. So it's not something where it's like, I'm going to the gym, I'm healthy, I failed in a week because this wasn't fun. You don't,
Yeah.
it's like, you don't do this stuff now. Like, why would it be fun? There's nothing fun about it, to be honest with you. There's,
Mm. Especially like too in the like so I was always kind of like that the chubby sister. Like I was always like, I was never the one who was like this skinny little twig. And as I'm getting older now, right, I am becoming the strong one, like the one that eats healthy and all that. I am becoming like a little bit different person. There was definitely a moment in my journey where it's like, oh man, like I am that girl that goes to the gym and lifts heavy weights. I am that girl that eats healthy, right? Like you have to kind of shift your identity. And that was kind of weird. That was a weird phase of realization for me, how I was no longer that person that I grew up thinking I was.
yeah. An example of that for me personally, I've always, I've always kind of run here and there in my life. Recently, in the last few years, I've become quite the runner, actually. As I got into Spartan races and things like that, that led me into more athletic endeavors. A lot of times we were like, hey, like, I got to 25. I was working in retail, not really a fit person, drinking a lot, not really, didn't really have the best diet. I wasn't like super overweight, but I was like 215, which I had, it's like 40% body fat. but 40 is a lot. Maybe like 30 to 35% body fat. That's a better, a more accurate thing. And it's like, oh man, I can't run anymore because I got, my knees are gonna hurt and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna run. I'm a runner now. And I start running, and I get in the habit of it. And of course, running is super painful. It doesn't matter. It's always painful. Hopefully, you can get some strength going in your lower body and your the rest of your body, and you move well, and that can become a little bit more comfortable, and you can train that variable. And you look at someone was like, oh, you should run a half marathon. So first thought, I'm like, I'm not someone who's going to run a half marathon. Like, absolutely not. That's way too long. I'm not going to be committed for that long. That's going to be painful. That's going to suck. Up until last year, the furthest distance I had ever run was 7 miles. And we're talking about, in an unbroken thing. The first time I ran a half marathon was the first time that I ever ran past 7 miles. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the mileage of a half marathon, it's 13.1 miles. That was the first time I went past 7 miles. I doubled what I had previously told myself that I'm only capable of achieving. And one of the lessons that was taken from that, and David Goggins talks a lot about this as well, is like, what else am I leaving on the table? And that moment unlocked so many doors for me. And if you think about it now, everyone says, oh, I'm old, I'm creaky and stuff like that. At 34, I'll be 35 in April. I will destroy any other version of myself that's ever existed. I am stronger, I am faster, I am built better. The one exception is maybe like an all-out sprint. That might be the one exception. Um,
Mm.
However,
Yeah,
from a fitness scale, because now I can see it. I've been told that I can only run 7 miles because I'm the person that's telling myself that all the day, right? And then all of a sudden it's like we're gonna go do a half marathon, and now the time is now, and it's like I've never run past 7 miles, and voila, I do it easily, actually.
totally. Yeah, and I think, like, age as much as, like, there are some limitations to age, maybe, like, certain like, from a skeletal, muscular I mean, from, like, a joint standpoint and all of that, there might be some limitations there from previous injuries, right? Just because, you've been on the market a little bit longer, but overall, like, age isn't really something that should hold you back from doing anything.
Did you just say I've been on the market a little bit longer?
You've been on this planet a little bit longer.
Whew. Shots,
He's a little bit
shots
older than me,
fired.
so I can say that.
I
But
take
yeah,
no I take
yeah,
no offense.
yeah, right? So, I mean, but for the most part, like, age shouldn't hold you back because at the end of the day, like, you are your biggest competition, not the next person next to you who might be younger, right? It might be more gifted and more genetically capable or whatever not, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's you versus you.
For sure.
So,
And those people that a comparison, obviously, they say it's the thief of joy and whatnot. Like those people that you compare yourself to, don't look at them as an opponent. Look at them as a mentor, like an
yeah.
indirect mentor. Like you're killing it. What can I learn from you? All right. A great example. Look at professional athletes, and as they open up and stuff like that, you'll hear more about their lifestyles and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, like Kobe Bryant worked out like 3 times a day, and he would wake up at 4 in the morning and work out, and then he would work out again, and then he would work out again. You probably can't beat. You probably wouldn't have been able to beat Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. In a
Yeah.
basketball game. However, you could have your version of that
Yeah.
with what you've been given, and you could get some results, get some great traction. Now that doesn't need to necessarily apply to only athletic endeavors. But if there's someone who you see someone in the gym doing a move that you can't do or you're not comfortable with, what can I learn from this person? They're not always a nemesis. A lot of times there's something to be learned from it. And a lot of if you change that perspective, I think you can get a lot of from what you believe about yourself and what you believe in, and it can lead to some great accomplishments once you really accept that what's actually holding you back.
Yeah, I think also for like for girls too, like we look at, different girls on Instagram and their little skinny itty bitty bodies, right? And like all the things that they're doing. And sometimes they have unhealthy habits and sometimes they have really great habits too. But all those women like they work really hard to look like that. And sometimes we don't put in that same effort into our own selves and we kind of get upset or jealous or whatever not about how everybody else is looking. But they're sacrificing a lot to look a certain way. And sometimes when you look at what people are sacrificing for their accomplishments, maybe you have like a moment where you say, I actually don't want to sacrifice all of that though to look like that or be like that, right?
Yep.
So also looking at like what are you willing to sacrifice and give up? And at the end of the day, just appreciating what you are able to do.
Oh, absolutely.
We're so underappreciative of what we're able to do, and, like, how lucky are we that we can even move? There are so many people out there that, for whatever reason, accidents, birth, or whatever, can't do the things that we do, so
Yep. Every single person has something to offer. There's something that you are good at, and you are probably better than 90% of the world's population.
for sure. Right, tap into that, and since we're on the Thanksgiving season, be grateful for it too.
What are you thankful for, Sandra?
Oh, geez. Good question. Honestly, like, I'm really thankful for my friends and family that I have around me. I know that seems really duh and cliche around Thanksgiving, but this year especially, like, I feel it even more going through this pregnancy and, like, not always feeling my best or not always doing my best or not always, like, I have a very high standard of myself and things that of and level of accomplishment that I always seek for, and not being able to do that, and having people around me that kinda taught me back off the ledge a little bit. It's just been really, really grateful for that and their everyone's
Hi.
support. Yes, thanks, Anthony, you're one of them. What about you?
I'd have to say I'm thankful for my own personal health,
Yeah,
family, friends. Um, I think there's been a lot of trials and tribulations this year that I've experienced, and I'm super thankful for that. Because one of the things that I've taken from it, and one of the things that I will always take from it, and I always kind of strive for it. I still have so much to learn, and there's still so much growth, and I can appreciate that, and I'm thankful for it. And some days suck really bad, especially working out and stuff like that. As you obviously, I've been injured for a little bit foot wise. Um, like just learning like in that spec, and there's still room for growth, and it's great to see. The journey is much longer than we originally thought. So I'm thankful for
yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, if you think about, like, even with, like, where you and I were a year ago, what different places we were in, like, working for, like, a commercial gym, right? Having, like, a more regimented schedule and all of that, and just looking out and being like, "Oh, there's, all the things that we could accomplish and whatnot," and now we're taking our little baby steps to do so.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind
Shout
of
out to
exciting.
Globo Gym.
Yeah.
All right, so it's been real.
Yes, it
This
has.
has been a great talk. I'm glad that we got a chance to sit down and go through some of the questions from the audience. There's actually some really good questions. So, some great topics there. I'm going to go ahead, link up with the parents, start getting after this Thanksgiving week. And I hope you do the same, Sandra. Thank you as
Yes.
always, and hope you and G have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you, thank you. Have fun with your family. I'm so jealous your parents are in town, but I wish you guys a great Thanksgiving. Have lots of yummy food, and everyone else that's listening.
I'll try.
Yeah. Alright, bye,
All right.
guys.
Bye.